Welcome back, everyone. It is Sunday sit-down time. We got a special guest joining us virtually for sit-down this week, Mizzou track and field coach Brett Halter. Brett, thanks for making some time with that for us. I know it's a very busy time of year for you guys out there.
Thanks for having me on. We're excited.
Yeah, obviously a big week coming up, NCAA championships out in Eugene, Oregon. Obviously always a fun place to go and compete. Kind of tell me, obviously you have 4 athletes advance and go to the NCAA championships. What's kind of led to the success you feel like for this group this season?
Obviously their dedication, tenacity. Each has a personal story, a journey to share. Obviously we're taking some experience into the championship. Mitch, Skylar both been there before, and Kelsey, this will be her first trip, and then Sterling as a freshman obviously making his first trip. So but we're really looking towards Skylar and Mitch to kind of lead the way and lead with experience.
You mentioned that experience. How critical when you go to a big stage like this, a lot of eyes on this, is that experience in Skylar and Mitch both?
Well, having been there and for a track person, Eugene is the place. It's track capital of the United States, and the only place that's in the United States that's held a world championship for track and field. So it's a special place for a track person, and having been there is important. But keep in mind, we're in the SEC, and I think everybody recognizes every sport in the SEC is extremely competitive. And when you've been battle tested inside the SEC, the NCAA championship, it's virtually the same thing. I mean, most of the fields are comprised of SEC athletes. So even though Kelsey and Sterling haven't been on this stage yet, they've been on this stage through the SEC championships.
Leading up to the NCAA championships, obviously coming out of round 1 and everything, what does the preparation look like? We were talking before, it looks like a lot of recovery, but what is kind of the days leading up to this all look like for you guys?
Yeah, each individual has their own routine with their event coaches. The event coaches do an amazing job. Priority number 1 is get back from round 1. It's a long week. You got to get recovered. Each athlete is going to recover at a different rate. And then you got to get back. You got to reset your mind, and we have about 10-day turnaround, and we got to get some really important training in. You got a short window to do that. You get inside of too far into a 10-day window, you're not going to get any training effect. So those first few days are really critical, and then you kind of slide into your travel, as we head out west and then get acclimated while we're out there.
Well, I want to dive into, each person competing out there. Let's start with Mitch. What have you thought about Mitch's season, and then obviously going into the championships here?
Well, he's a leader. In his journey, he had obviously he missed this meet last year. Postseason had to go very invasive hip surgery. I think they broke his hip in 8 places and reset it. Pretty extraordinary. Really questioned, can he come back? And he really committed to making sure he could do that. And he's done it at a really high level. We talk about your baseline. In track and field, everybody wants to talk about their personal best, their PR, things like that. But you're not as good as your PR. That's a one-off. So you're only as good as what you can do on your worst day. And so building that baseline so you know what you have in your hip pocket is really critical. And that's where Mitch is, and that's a really important thing. Skylar, she too is working back from an injury. This will be the first NCAA championship that she's been to where she's healthy, but we're still working back on a return to throwing program after her surgery, which is equally as invasive. And so we're very thankful that she's been able to qualify for the NCAA championship, and we're going to take what we can get while we're there. We know that she was an All-American last year. Did an amazing job dealing with, her injuries there. But we're trying to get out of this year, get through the Olympic trials with nearly 100% health to really set the stage as we move into next year. Really excited about Kelsey. I wouldn't wish this on anyone following in her sister's footsteps, and that's always the question. You're a Schweitzer, how's Carissa, all that kind of stuff. And it's taken her some time to really kind of come to grips with that and grow into her own runner. And she's a really special runner. Really kind of cool to see her overcome all those things and grow into a leader of the team in her own capacity. And just the tenacity that she's bringing in her races is really remarkable over this postseason. So we're looking for her to carry that into the NCAA final. And of course, Sterling, one of the national leaders last year coming out of high school, comes from a track and field family. Mom and dad were, I think, Auburn graduates, jumpers while they were there in college. And so we're very grateful that he chose Missouri. And Coach Schamoff's doing a great job with him. We're being sort of playing the long game with him, not getting him spun up too much. You don't want to put I guess in maybe people understand this, like you don't want to put a Maserati engine on a Volkswagen chassis. It's probably not going to work very well, right? So what we want to do is make sure that we're building his engine at the same capacity as his chassis, and all that's to say we can't get him so trained up that he injures himself catastrophically. So we're being very patient with him because he's got some really big things ahead of him in the future.
Well, with Sterling, what kind of composure coming in as a freshman? Obviously, you mentioned he comes from a track and field family, but coming in as a freshman, what kind of composure have you seen him have, especially in the SEC?
He's a gamer. He just likes the big stage, and he just wants to mix it up with the big dogs, and he's one of them. He knows it. He loves it. That's what he lives for, and it's been fun to watch him, tackle the SEC in round one to date, and really looking forward to the NCAA final. And then for him, he and Coach Schamoff will stay in Eugene, and a very quick turnaround as they prepare for the U20 USA Championships to qualify for basically the high school and first year in college world championship down in Korea.
Obviously, you mentioned Kelsey there. Everyone in Columbia knows the name Schweitzer, and you mentioned that. How have you kind of seen her kind of tackle that? And you mentioned her growth as making herself an individual runner. What have you liked about her growth?
Well, just the maturity. I mean, I get like being the little sister, and I mean, Carissa did some remarkable things. So I just appreciate her coming to grips with that. It was very difficult her first 2 years. She's overcome all of that, and the maturity that she's demonstrated this year has just been exceptional. Keep in mind, though, we've had a couple coaching changes with her event group, with Coach Burns stepping away, and then Coach Anderson getting hired back at her alma mater. So she's really bought into Coach Levermore, Coach Duca, Coach Anderson's programming, and kind of jumped in and said, you know what, these are my coaches, and I'm going to listen to what they're doing. Coach Levermore has really done remarkable with the programming, and we're seeing the results of it. So it's all about buy-in. And so, kudos to her for doing that.
Finally, what's your message to these four athletes before you go to Eugene and you're on that big stage?
We're going to go do what we do, and in track, you can't play defense. We're not going to run a great defensive play to intercept the javelin. That's not happening. We're not going to tackle lane 4. That's not going to happen. So we can only do what we can do. Control you, and what we do really well is we do track. And as long as we give our very best, we're going to walk away with our chin up. We'll see how it shakes out.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you making some time for us. Good luck out there.
Thank you.
For the rest of you guys, we'll be right back after the break.